Welcome back. Today we'll deal with letter number 9 of a series of 11 letters written by Rector William Smith of the St. John's Church in Nevis in 1730. He wrote these letters back to Trinity College in England with observations of the flora and fauna, but also of the people of Nevis at that time. This particular letter, number 9, touches on some rather disturbing things dealing with the Negro population of Nevis, the enslaved population, the African people. Now listen on as we read point number 4 in said letter. Another abandoned wretch, a captain did, about 3 or 4 years before my going to Nevis, steal some Negroes off the coast of Guinea and sold a stout man and his wife with a small sucking child to a gentleman of my acquaintance at Nevis, who used them well. The poor unfortunate fellow assured the gentleman that the captain stole him, and as he was a considerable person upon the coast of Whither, he scorned to work at Nevis. However, in order to bring him to relish a state of slavery, by gentle and easy degrees, he set him to look after his horses, mules, and sheep. But he had not long been in that station before he quarreled with another of his master's Negroes and killed him with a knife, upon which he fled away with his wife and child to the thick of the woods, where he immediately erected a hut, resolving to die rather than submit. However, he was soon found out, and his hut surrounded with armed white men and Negroes, who were resolved to apprehend him and make a public example of him. He first of all butchered his wife and child, and then came out of the hut with the bloody, reeking knife in his hand, offering it to his master, and saying that as he had fairly bought and paid for him, he had a just right to take away his life. The master told him that he must surrender himself and be tried by the civil magistrate, whereupon he struck at him with the knife, but was knocked down and secured. The next day, he was tried by 2 justices of the peace, who have a discretionary power to inflict what death they please upon such Negroes. The justices adjudged him to be broke upon the wheel and then burnt alive, which sentence was strictly put in execution when his arms, thighs, and leg bones were broken all to shivers with an iron crow. He did not so much as once cry out, "Oh!" He then desired a dram of rum, which was refused by his master, who rightly imagined that he only wanted, if possible, to die drunk. However, a draught of water was offered to him, which he refused to accept of. They then flung him into a large and fierce fire, where he expired with little or no concern. Letter number 9 of Reverend William Smith's 11 letters to Trinity College in England. What's interesting about this letter is that it explains how African people were sometimes not really caught up in the trade per se, but were sometimes stolen or just plucked off a coast and put on a ship. This man was apparently somebody who was not involved in any kind of trade, or he was not caught up in any kind of village raid or any war, but he seemed to be someone who was of some noble standing. The fact that he was caught with his woman and his child suggests that this man was a victim of some sort of conspiracy. Was he in fact some noble who ran afoul of someone else, a merchant of some kind, or just a regular person who someone just didn't like? When he got to Nevis, he first of all decided he will not submit to slavery. It just was not going to happen. And the way in which the slave owner attempted to get him to submit was the way people would say you boil a frog. You put the frog in water and you gradually warm the water, and the frog gets more and more comfortable in the warm water until it's too late. So rather than inflict violence upon him to break him, he tried to break him in an easy way to get him accustomed to a state of slavery. But the African also understood that easy slavery is slavery nonetheless. And so he possibly got into an argument with another of the well-seasoned broken slaves. And with that, killed this man and tried to flee with his family and tried to live in the woods. Now, the problem is in Nevis, there's really nowhere you can survive for much longer than a few weeks to a month or whatever, because Nevis is not a big island. And as soon as possible, someone will find you and report you. Now, where he was taken from was a place called Ouidah, which is now in Benin Republic, West Africa. And this man understood, like all Africans, or all Africans believed at the time, that mostly if I die, I go back home. My spirit returns home. When he murders his wife and his child before coming out, this was an act of absolute defiance, because even if he died, the woman and the child would be placed in shackles and be enslaved. Now, someone might judge him and say he's a murderer, he killed the woman and the child, but you don't know what the agreement was. We have documented evidence of women also killing their children so as to not subject their children to slavery and then killing themselves. African people resisted in very sometimes dramatic and sometimes visceral ways. And the fact that he wouldn't give them the satisfaction of hearing him scream out or beg for mercy means that he knew that he would see his wife and child back home. Thank you for listening.